people of the territory and to the testifiers. Dr. Callwood, in regards to the Board of Education, do you believe that you guys maximize the power vested in you as a board across when it comes to education and making sure that policies, mandates, and various things are implemented for the betterment of the children of this territory?
I think it's always room for improvement. I wouldn't say that all the powers that invested in the board that we maximize. It's always room for improvement. And of course, it depends on a collective body. Of course, we're missing 9 members. So right now, we're struggling with 8 members trying to do every committee work, every single thing. So we need an additional body. And then, of course, many years ago, the board relinquished its role in terms of grant funding in the territory. In terms of, in order for the department to spend anything, the board is supposed to make some of those approvals. So we have to weave our way back into that process. And of course, they have relinquished that because they don't have the manpower. The individuals needing the staff to monitor the grant funding and what's happening in the department in terms of spending plans, budgetary revisions, those things.
So basically, that elected position should have gotten adequate funding so it could do their job to the best of their ability.
Exactly, to staff and show up the staff of the board, yes.
Okay, not to know is bad, but not to wish to know is worse. But what happens when you do know and you still don't do anything about it? What about that? And the reason why I ask that is because every time I come to these education meetings, and I keep hearing the narrative that it's because of the hurricanes and COVID why our children are doing so ridiculously bad at such low numbers. But did anybody bother to go look at the data to see what those numbers were before the hurricanes?
Yes, Senator.
Well, share with me, because I went on your, the Vivis, and I looked at the data. 2014 to 2015 in math, our children were 75% below basic. That was even before the hurricanes and even before COVID. So right now, between last year and I think they're at 79, and prior before that, according to your information, 77 or something like that? So you're telling me from 2014 to 15, they were so below. But we're still sitting here and blaming COVID and the hurricanes for this when those numbers already existed. So, see, that's my concern, because we keep pushing this narrative, but what are we really doing to fix the problem? Because it already existed. It didn't happen because of COVID. It didn't happen. As a matter of fact, if you look at the data, our children actually improved right after the hurricane numbers, because I looked at 2018 to 2019 in math, they were below basic was at 67%.
1 minute, 30 seconds.
They actually did better right after the hurricane. And that's your data. So when I keep hearing this narrative, I'm concerned, because it's starting to make me feel that it's easier for us to make excuses than for us to pinpoint the problem and start attacking it so our children would get from these dismal numbers. That's my concern, because stop and think about it. This is our future. I'm 50 years old. These are the children that are going to somehow graduate below basic to set up my future and make sure I am taken care of. You think I am happy about that? I mean, I'm not. I want our children to be better. But we have to tackle the issues and stop pushing a narrative that is not reality. These numbers were low before the hurricane and COVID. Reading comprehension, 2014 to 2015, our children was 57% below basic.
30 seconds.
This didn't happen because of that. It already existed. And until we start to accept those realities, we're going to keep having the same problem. And I do agree that our children are dealing with a lot. When you have to listen to these Counts report of 33% poverty for our children, that is 1/3 of our children in this territory are living in poverty. That don't mean just them. Their parents are living in poverty because it now trickles down to them. A third of our population. So what do you think gonna happen to those children coming to school? Half of them either hungry, they can't get their clothes washed like the young lady was saying. Teachers are going the extra mile just to make them feel okay. A child coming to school dirty, you think they ain't gonna get teased? You don't think that's gonna affect their mind? Look at the criminal element. We have so many young men getting murdered. You don't think they have younger brothers and sisters at home knowing that their brother and sister gone?
Time.
You don't think all of those things mentally affect these children? Our children are dealing with so much in this territory. But until we start tackling those issues, these numbers are going to stay dismal. We have to attack their mental wellness. We have to attack the poverty aspect of it. We have to attack education across the board. And I agree when y'all said there has to be a holistic approach to this. But at the end of the day, if we're not even looking at the facts and pretending it's something else, we are not going to get any place to make sure our children have a better future. So that is my thoughts on this today. But I heard my time is up. So thank you, Madam Chair, for indulging me a little bit additional time.
So if
Sure, Senator Frances Heiliger, do you want to respond? Because it's leading right into my 5 minutes, which is amazing that she hit the nail on the head.
No, she did.
But she hit the nail on the head.
And by no means is anyone trying to pretend. What we are saying is that because of those areas, we decreased even more. But you're absolutely right. When the Department of Education made the shift in the assessment that was being used from the ITBS, which was more straightforward, to the Smarter Balance assessment, which required more critical thinking, it shifted the performance of the territory. You could go back and look. It required us changing the way that we instruct our students, the way that we ask questions. It was a complete shift to meet the Common Core state standards. And so we've been struggling. We own that. We own that. If you ask a student a question, a mathematics question, straightforward, they can do it. But you put it into a word problem, they struggle because, again, literacy is still low. So I concur and I hear your passion, Senator Heiliger, and trust me, we're not brushing it under the rug. What we've said is that we have to look at the data more in depth, school by school, and that means drilling down. I remember looking at the ITBS, not the ITBS, the iReady data with the consultants, and we looked historically at a teacher who had no growth. And that no growth wasn't for this year. We went back the previous year and it was no growth again. We went back, and so the question to the principal was, how are we dealing with this? How are we helping this teacher who obviously is struggling somewhere to build up his or her skills? So I hear you, we right with you on that, and there's no sugarcoating, the data speaks, and I am not afraid to share the data. It is what it is, and we now have to build from where we are, and that requires from the ground up. It can't be like this, because then we're not going to meet the needs, individual needs of our educators, and support them in the work that they're doing. And yes, our educators are overwhelmed. Yes, they go the extra mile, but they also need our support, and that's where this gentleman and Dr. Herman come in to make sure that the district is going into the schools to support the teachers who are in the trenches. So your point is well taken, Senator.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good afternoon once again to my colleagues, to the testifiers, to the people of the territory. I wanted to ask a quick question in regards to, and I wasn't sure if any of my colleagues asked this, psychologists versus counselors. We live in a different age, and I grew up in a time where, I could have chatted up with my counselor, but these children are on a whole nother level, and I am of the belief that we might need to have psychologists actually a part of these schools. What are your thoughts on that? And is that something you see that we should be incorporating? Because the myriad of issues these children are dealing with, they need direct access to help right there in that facility. That's my thought, but share yours.
No, that's everybody's thought,
Oh,
Senator.
okay.
We had a discussion earlier about that. We definitely have had challenges recruiting school psychologists. And in lieu of that, we were able to form a good partnership with the Department of Health, and they offer us assistance with the behavioral vans, which have licensed individuals inside to just come to our schools and be accessible for our students and faculty and staff.
Well, you think most children don't want people to know they have to go in a van. I don't think.
Right. So I mean, that's just, it's a start. No, I hear you, because even when we have our meetings with the student council, the children tell me, I'm not speaking to my counselor because I don't want my business on the street.
30
So
seconds.
that's just one thing that we're doing, and we're open to suggestions. But one of the issues that we've had is historically is recruiting.
You have adults that don't even want to go see a therapist.
But Senator, the request that we actually got from the children in student council is that we bring in some psychologists for them to talk to. That's what they actually
I
want.
agree. I think they should have them. I'm asking about the publicness of a van. I think that's where you might see them deter, because even with adults, they don't want people to know they're getting therapy, because even in our culture and our society, they act like it's something wrong, when the same way if you have an issue with your heart or your foot, you go to the doctor, you have to make sure your mind is well just the same. So for me, I think it's very, very important. So whatever we could do to maybe come up with other alternatives, maybe outside of the van that everybody see the child walking into, they're not gonna do it, because even I as an adult might not do it. You understand? So I do appreciate your support for that, and I really look forward to that really integrated across all our schools here in the territory, because it's very, very important. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Senator. Senator